everyone, I'm Mixed Media Girl and welcome to Hometalk, the world's largest DIY community for home and garden. If you're watching the premiere on Hometalk TV, I'll be watching with you and answering questions in the comments. So give me a shout out, tell me where you're watching from, and make sure to post your questions. If you want to be notified of future episodes, click the follow button and either download the Hometalk app or leave your email address so you never miss a show. We're going to go ahead and get started. Today we're doing a super fun project. It is an acrylic pour on a vinyl record, which we're going to then make into a clock. So I have pre-primed the record, and as I go here, I'm going to explain the materials that I'm using. And before anyone worries, this was an old record that was all scratched up and wouldn't play anymore. So it wasn't a good record. It was just about to be thrown in the trash can. I was like, oh, we'll paint on it. So I did pre-prime it with just a spray paint, a paint and primer. The paints I'm using here are Artist Loft Flow Acrylics, which all the materials will be in a link in the description. And these are mixed with Floetrol and water. If you go to my YouTube channel, which is Mixed Media Girl, there's videos on how I mix my paints exactly. This paint here, this is a metallic purple, which is actually Art Mind's DIY paint. And then I'm using a bronze, which is Deco Art Americana Metallics. And that's that color. This is one of my favorite color schemes. So for anyone who hasn't done acrylic pouring before, my ratio, well, also I'm just going to define Floetrol for you. Floetrol is a paint conditioner. It is often used by house painters, and you can get it in the paint section at Lowe's, Home Depot. And my paint mixture is generally 2/3 paint to 1/3 Floetrol, and then I'll add a little bit of water to get the right consistency. Then throw a little more purple in here, and then we're going to go ahead and pour. And I use about 1 ounce of paint for every 16 square inches of surface. So for this surface, I need about 7 ounces of paint. There's no wrong or right way to pour this. Oh, I'm going to say one more thing too. On the back of here, I did put a little piece of tape to cover up the hole there. That just gives you a more consistent design. So I do love to pour this in what's called kind of the tree ring method. And that's just going in a circle like this. There we go. All right, I do have parchment paper under here, which will catch the runoff, and that I save and I use in other projects. I use it in jewelry, in magnets, bookmarks, even book covers, all kinds of things. So there's really, really minimal waste here, guys. And you just move it around, get the design you're happy with. Like I said, there's no wrong or right way. You don't have to pour it in a circle like I did. You can just kind of dump it on there, or flip cup it is another version. See, I like this side over here, so I'm going to run it back this way a little bit. And a common question is how long it takes to dry, which it depends on your temperature and humidity. But this will generally take, I'd say 1 to 2 days to dry. So it does take a while. You need to make sure you leave it on a level surface. And that's it. So that is the first step of our process. It's super simple. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to move this out of the way. And then I'm going to show you another clock that I already painted. And I'm going to show you how I seal it. Putting some new paper down. Okay. So this is one that I already did. It's fully dry. You want to ideally let it dry for several days. I'm sorry, not several days, for a couple weeks actually, so that the paint is fully dry. I paint the letters on here. You don't need to hand paint them, and you don't need to use Roman numerals. I like the Roman numerals, but you can use stickers, like number stickers. There's clock kits that come with the numbers as well, but I like to just hand paint them. I think that looks awesome. So that's that. And what we're going to seal this with is resin. I have Stone Coat Countertops Art Coat. You do not need resin to seal it. It's just my preference. You can use any kind of varnish or clear coating. I've also used this. This is Rust-Oleum Crystal Clear Enamel. It's a spray. So I've also used that. But really any kind of varnish will work. I like the resin because it gives it an extra protective coat and makes it nice and shiny. So I've already pre-measured my cup here. With resin, it comes in two parts. First part is resin, and the second part is the hardener. They need to be mixed together in order to activate, and you need to use, for this resin, an equal amount of each. So I'm gonna go ahead, I'm pouring the hardener in first because it's thinner. So that makes it a little bit easier to mix. And then I'm gonna pour the actual resin. From the time that you put these together in the cup, you're on a clock. You have certain resins are different working times. This particular resin has a working time of actually about an hour. So you actually get so much time with this resin. But other resins only have a working time of maybe like 10 minutes. So definitely read up on the resin you're using. This is my preferred one. So we got to mix it here very well. Another important point about resin is that you want to make sure you're doing it in a warm room. Otherwise it will not mix very well and it will take a very long time to dry, which is called curing. So I preheated my bottles because it's a bit colder with the winter coming and everything. So, and then the room is about 75 degrees. All right, we need to mix these for a good, I'd say 3 minutes or so is good. I scraped the sides, I scraped the bottom. I do also want to mention that not all resins are the same. Some are very highly toxic and you want to make sure you take all the necessary precautions. So please make sure that you read up on any resin that you're using and use all the proper precautions. All right, this is almost mixed up. You'll notice also when it's cold, your resin will look very white. When it's the proper temperature, it's more clear. You can mix it with a drill as well. But since I'm mixing such a small amount, I'm just mixing it by hand. Now the ratio for the resin is you need about 3 ounces for every square foot of surface. And it does no good to use extra because it's just going to run off. Resin is self-leveling. And since this is a painted surface with acrylic paint on there, I don't want to use any tools that may possibly damage it. So I just very gently go along here with my hand and make sure that I get full coverage, particularly on the edges. It's a pretty simple process. You can also use a silicone tool. There are like silicone trowels. Those work well. So I am going to have runoff on the sides. You can also raise this, by the way, guys, if you want to, and then you'll have drips on the bottom. But I will have runoff on the sides. What I like to do, that I've found the easiest, because I'm all about what's the easiest method of doing this, is as soon as it's dry, but not 100% cured, which is in about a day, maybe a little bit less, I will simply take some scissors and I will just cut off the excess. That's why I prefer doing this over raising it, because if you raise it, you have the drips on the bottom, and for that you have to sand it. So either way, it's a very simple process. That's literally all there is to it. Now, in this case, I did get resin in the hole there. It's very easy. I just take some scissors or a knife and I just scrape it at the end. I mean, when it's all dry. All right, another important point with resin is you need to get rid of the air bubbles. So this is a Burns-O-Matic torch. I generally use a torch. We're just gonna go lightly. Because this is a vinyl record, we don't want to warp it, so we don't go too heavy on it. You can use a heat gun, is another option. I would not use a hair dryer. That's a frequent question. A hair dryer will move the resin around, and you don't want that. It will also probably blow dust in there. It's too much air. So a heat gun is just heat without air, and then a torch is pretty much just the heat. You can use like a cigarette lighter torch. You can use anything. The Burns-O-Matic torch I got from, I think, Home Depot, either Home Depot or Lowe's, and it's like 25 bucks. You can get it online as well on Amazon. All right, so that is the sealing process. I don't know if you noticed, but it really brings back out the colors. Now we let this, ideally you cover it, but we're gonna let this sit for a good 24 hours to fully dry before even considering adding our clock mechanism in there. I do recommend actually letting it sit for even longer if you can, because it's really 7 days to fully harden, and 30 days is the actual full cure time. I'm gonna just move this out of the way because I don't wanna accidentally dump anything on it. Just moving it to the side a little bit. Okay. Now I'm going to go over, this is the clock movement kit that I like to use. This one's from Michael's, but also Hobby Lobby, I think Walmart, a bunch of places have it. The important thing is the size. So this is use on 3/8 inch thick clock surface. This is the smallest one that Michael's has that I've found. You don't want to get bigger than that, like they have ones that are 3/4 inch. Because obviously the vinyl record is really thin. This one's still bigger than it needs to be, but this is a completed clock. So you'll see it does stick out a bit. I don't mind that. I don't mind that at all. Now, so I've cleaned up the sides here, and on the back, I like to just give a solid coat of paint. So that just makes it look all nice. And then this has an actual hanging mechanism for the clock. So that is a completed one. The really cool thing about this project is you can do it in any colors you want. As you can see, this is completely different color scheme than the other two that I did here. So you can do it to match your home decor. This makes a great Christmas gift, you know, or any kind of gift, really. But it's just a super fun and easy project. So that is really it for our project today. I do want to mention that I do teach acrylic pour classes and resin classes in Los Angeles. I have one coming up in January 2020. So I'll, if you guys are interested in that, let me know. I'll get you the link. I do also want to mention that I wrote an entire acrylic pouring book. This has this project in there from start to finish of making the clock. It also has acrylic pouring on vases, and just all the acrylic pouring techniques along with how to mix the paint. So it has everything you could possibly need. This will be in the link up above with all of the materials that you would need for this project. All right, guys, so let me know if you are going to try this project. I would love to know if you plan on, giving that a try, or if you have tried this project, let me know. Also, let me know, of course, if you have any questions down in the comments. I will be watching this with you and answering those questions, and I will be coming back for a couple of days and answering the questions as well. And of course, as always, I will see you guys next time.